last night, Steve Ballmer did an interview with our very own Ramona Shelburne as part of the Pablo Torre, Kawhi Leonard, Clippers story, which we spent a lot of time on Wednesday's show when Pablo joined the show to talk about that. Now, the story then took another step when Mark Cuban and Pablo got into it on Twitter, and Mark Cuban said, hey, Pablo said, then come on the show and talk about it. Mm-hmm. And Mark Cuban said, fine. And they did that yesterday. But here's the thing. I want to get to the Ramona sound because here's my takeaway. When I saw that Steve Ballmer was going to join Ramona on SportsCenter and talk about it, it made me think, oh, maybe they're taking this a little bit more seriously than just blowing it off, and it needs to be addressed now by Steve Ballmer. Is that what you kind of thought, Cappy?
Well, I definitely think that nobody's going to take this lightly. I mean, these are very, very serious accusations. And I thought that Steve Ballmer, who is generally regarded as a likable guy, I think that he and his PR team went into immediate damage control. And the best way to control the damage, I would think, and I'm not some expert in terms of crisis management, but believe me, there are plenty of them out there, and there are plenty of them in L.A. that could have helped Steve Ballmer. I think for him, what he's trying to say, even if he doesn't say it, but even just by showing up, I think Steve Ballmer is saying, I'm not hiding, and I got nothing to hide, and I'm willing to go out and do an interview on national television because I'm not here hiding.
All right, so let's play cut number one, Steve Ballmer denying all claims.
You never directed anyone from Aspiration to do an endorsement deal with Kawhi Leonard?
No, I didn't. And more importantly, we, the Clippers, did not. We didn't give them direction. We made an introduction as is appropriate under the rules. A lot of sponsors do like to, they call it activate, by doing something also with players. We made the introduction, and that was that. Kawhi's business is Kawhi's business, but we've always done the right thing.
Now, that line, Kawhi's business is Kawhi's business, it becomes a little murky and complicated because Steve Ballmer was an investor in the company that did the endorsement deal. And part of that is there was no language in the deal of what Kawhi had to do, and he didn't do anything, it appears, for the $28 million.
That's right, but you know, when I listened to what Mark Cuban had to say, and I didn't get through the entire hour and change between Pablo and Cuban this morning. I got through about half of it. And by the way, I'm fascinated by what I'm listening to as the two of them go back and forth because they both have two totally different perspectives based on their experiences. Cuban didn't find any of this to be necessarily egregious or illicit.
It was more like he didn't think that any of the evidence that Pablo uncovered pointed to Steve Ballmer like having knowledge of this.
Mark Cuban's big point from a business standpoint is a good one, which is the only way this becomes public is when they go into bankruptcy, because once you're in bankruptcy, all your debtors are listed now.
Right.
It becomes public knowledge. So that's how Pablo got the story. Right. So if you're trying to cover something up and you're one of the world's richest people in Steve Ballmer,
you don't let them go into bankruptcy.
You don't let them go into bankruptcy.
That's
you just say, hey, what do you need? Here's another $50 million to fund you.
Yes.
Pay off Kawhi so it never shows up, and nobody's talking about this. And I think that's a very valid point, actually, by Mark Cuban.
It is.
I
However,
agree.
The argument from Pablo was by the time that this company started getting into trouble and there was bankruptcy or fraud allegations, that at that point, the guy that was in charge of the company, the CEO or co-founder or whatever, was already being investigated. And
for wire fraud.
Right. So at that point, there was already like a black mark on this company, and that maybe he didn't want to get in and save anybody at that point because it would just look bad because it would come back to him.
And that's a great point. Go ahead, Captain.
But I think Cuban, though, brings up something interesting that, hey, look, when a team, in this case the Clippers, does a deal with a company, in this case Aspiration, and they're going to put their names on the back of their seats, and there is talk of a jersey patch, et cetera. The NBA is going to vet this deal themselves. This is not just the Clippers going, hey, guess what? We found this sponsor. They've got a couple $100 million they're going to put into our team. The NBA is going to do a very thorough vetting of this company.
However,
okay, go ahead. There's a however.
Pablo's point was, what about FTX? Remember when there was all those big teams and like the league itself was an investor or was a partner with FTX, and that ended up being a huge scam.
So I think that's Cuban's point. Cuban's point is that you look at us, us being the rich owners, right? You look at us as being rich. You think of us as being smart because we've achieved this much financial success. But guess what? and Cuban said it himself, I've been scammed. That's what Cuban said. I've been scammed. And what Cuban's point was, and he even told Pablo, I don't have really much of a relationship with Ballmer. We're not exactly close friends. I'm not coming to his defense for any reason other than this is my perspective. Guys, no matter how rich, no matter how smart, no matter how successful, they are susceptible to scams.
Well, and I think let's play that sound when Steve Ballmer told Ramona that he was conned.
These are guys who committed fraud. How would I be able? Look, they conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me. At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did.
So, again, if you take it
Sounds like he's about to cry.
I know. He's definitely on the defensive. Clearly.
Can I ask one question? So this is a confusing part to me. If we're kind of accepting that line of logic that the Clippers were conned by Aspiration, so then is the argument that Kawhi and Kawhi's representative conned Aspiration?
No.
How did Kawhi then get the essentially $50 million?
Uncle Dennis.
Well, right, Uncle Dennis. The argument would be that they reached out to Kawhi to do this endorsement deal.
Well, but if they're conning, and again, I don't know if their original pursuit wasn't. I'm guessing they didn't start out trying to con people. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, if you believe there's no connection with Ballmer being an investor and they're just doing these deals, the con would be they did a deal with the Clippers to be the patch, right? Then they conned Kawhi. They basically are doing all these deals.
But they paid Kawhi, though.
Right. So the point would be is that they're either paying money and they didn't realize they weren't making any money, or the whole thing was a con that Ballmer was in, and they were just kind of washing money, if you will.
So that's
then
the Pablo
going
Torre,
around the salary cap.
That's the Pablo Torre tweet I saw from yesterday. In fact, the Black Hand sent this to me, but PTFO, so Pablo Torre finds out, can now confirm that Aspiration gave Kawhi a secret $20 million side deal, as first reported by Boston Sports BSJ. Combined with Kawhi's secret $28 million no-show endorsement deal, that's $48 million. PTFO previously reported that Steve Ballmer's personal Aspiration investment was $50 million.
Yeah, that's where I get confused.
Right.
That's where it is. The money.
So that lines, obviously, that as Pablo, that's pretty succinct. It kind of lines up pretty evenly there.
And Pablo was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday, and Rich kind of asked him, this isn't a lot. He kind of took the angle of this isn't a lot of money. And Pablo corrected him and said, you got to understand, in the endorsement world, this is a huge amount of money. Players aren't just getting $28 million deals for literally doing nothing.
Right.
So, yes, they make hundreds of millions of dollars through the NBA and playing. These side deals that we see, unless you're Nike and you're Jordan,
the side deal might
or
be
LeBron,
a couple $100K.
Right. They're not these monstrous deals for nothing.
Yeah. At least, Cappy, I've never seen that in any pro sport. I've never seen a player endorsement for literally anything outside of like a big LeBron shoe deal, which we see produces millions of pairs of shoes, and he's on every Nike ad, and that's the only deal that you would see of that magnitude. I've never seen a deal even remotely close to $50 million.
But can I just say this? Listen, I don't know who's right and I don't know who's wrong yet. And I suspect at some point we might actually get clarity.
So what do you honestly think, though, Cap?
Well, here's the thing. If you believe Pablo's reporting is with an attitude of, I got him. Because that's what an investigative journalist does. He goes after somebody and he nails them, right? And so Pablo has reported that Ballmer invested $50 million. Essentially, Kawhi got nearly $50 million. And by the way, the company then put $200 or $300 million into the Clippers. So it's reported like we got him kind of a thing.
Conned me.
Okay. On the other hand, if you're Cuban, your point is, hey, look, we as ultra wealthy guys oftentimes will make investments because we believe in the company or we believe in the mission. And, oh, by the way, we don't have to have close-knit relationships with these people to put money into stuff because that's what we do. So ultimately, I see Cuban's perspective. I don't know if he's right. And I definitely can appreciate Pablo's reporting. And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But Cuban's whole point was that instead of covering the story, which is people got conned, you're covering the story, which is an insinuation that Ballmer did something illegal.
No,
I mean, listen, you think about like what happened with the New York Mets, right? We never really dug deep into something like that. But Bernie Madoff convinced the Wilpon family to put a fortune into his Ponzi scheme, and ultimately Bernie Madoff was a crook.
And by the way, there's a great 30 for 30 about John Spano and buying the Islanders. That John Spano, and this was in the early 90s or mid-90s, if John Spano gets a TV deal, he basically was a complete fraud. He had nothing, but that TV deal would have bailed him out. What ended up happening is it was found out. Frank McCourt was bailed out by a TV deal. He didn't have the real money. So we've seen this all the time. By the way, if we go back to the stories of Jerry Jones, it's highlighted in the Netflix documentary. Was he a con artist? No, but he had to put everything down on one well, and that one well is what allowed him to buy the Dallas Cowboys. We all know the story of the great Dr. Jerry Buss. What is it? What is the same as a flamingo? They keep swimming. He kept swimming. He didn't necessarily have all this money. He just knew how to leverage and how to get what was going. He had to make payroll. So this goes on all the time. That shady stuff happens.
They conned me.
The problem was the shady stuff, and this company went to bankruptcy, and now it's being exposed, and people like Pablo, that is reporting this, saying, wait a minute, something shady is going on because this is like a no-show job, which basically means he's getting paid millions of dollars for not having to do anything.
Right.
And while ESPN LA on-air talent get paid not millions of dollars, but a lot of money, 6 figures of money, to do nothing in many people's eyes and in my eyes many times.
Of course.
And Pablo's going to make this bigger, too. He's now going to start – he says he's going to start going after the Knicks and Jalen Brunson. So this is going to be – it seems like there's more, and he's just going to keep digging in further and further
Go ahead,
and further.
Trudell, you can go back
No,
to it.
I don't know if Cappy resents Morales, essentially implying that he was doing a no-show job for his first couple years at the station.
Yeah,
no,
he was.
Michael, goes like this.
I didn't appreciate it.
Right. Goes right over. Doesn't even warrant a response.
It
frankly.
was a no-show. What Cappy was originally doing with us, no-show job.
They conned me.
We were conned.
Hey, listen, can a rich guy who's smart in business and unbelievably successful to where he's one of the top 10 richest people on the planet, can that guy get scammed? My answer is, yeah, no problem, because we've seen it happen before. Now the question ultimately becomes, did the Clippers do something that ultimately did circumvent the salary cap, or did they just make an introduction? Here's our player. Here's a company that we're in business with. You guys want to do a deal? Do a beautiful thing. Have fun.
Cappy, all I would add to that is that, like, I think I can certainly believe that anybody could get scammed, right? There are some people that are so good at lying, and I don't even know what the company was trying to do. I don't know. I haven't read all the documents.
trees, I think.
But okay, but
a tree,
and I think that trying to go green, I think is a noble pursuit. I don't know what they apparently weren't very good at it. But
this guy's talking about going green with all this Italian marble in his new kitchen.
Yeah, the connection thing. The marble's actually
you got to offset
really
it,
cheap.
okay?
Well, it's not marble, but like you can get really cheap. You can
Looks
get that,
like marble.
Home Depot. No, it's not marble.
Riggs' hair was shining off that
there's
marble.
there's like quartz and then there's quartzite, and I was like, Annie, let's do the cheaper one. And I can't remember what the cheaper one was. I think it's quartzite.
You got the Marblite?
A hot Chicana from the barrio, keeping it real.
Right. That's how you do it right there.
Yeah.